Hello and welcome to Series 2 of The Joy of Writing. I'm your host, Mark Carew. In this series I will be talking to authors about the fun, the satisfaction, the joy they get from their writing, whether it's prose fiction, narrative non-fiction or poetry. In this episode, Ed Parnell takes us through his thoughts and reactions on the publication of Ghostland and how it has affected the way he thinks about writing his next book. So, Ed, with Ghostland, which was your second book, published last year, how was your own reaction to its publication compared with that of your first book, The Listeners, in 2014?
I think the big difference was that it was my first book was published by quite a small publisher, so it didn't have. It was obviously available on Amazon, and it was available in a few sort of local bookshops where I'd kind of had an arrangement with the manager, that kind of thing. But if you walked into a random Waterstones in Birmingham or something, then they obviously wouldn't have a copy on the shelf. They might have been able to order you one, but it was sort of, it was as easy. It would be as easy for the customer to order one themselves.
Yeah.
So the big difference really with Ghostland, because it was published by William Collins, which is an imprint of HarperCollins, was that it was available in lots of shops. So that was a real thrill to be able to just sort of walk into a shop somewhere and see, oh, there's my book. It's there on a table. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And the launch for Ghostland, how was that for you? I mean, that whole thing of it coming out as your second one, was that just as much a thrill as the first?
I think it was, because I suppose, it was a bigger deal in that this was a book I'd been commissioned to write, and I'd been writing it for 2 and a bit years. So, it was a very personal book. So it felt really important for me that it was coming out. Not that the first book was, equally momentous in that regard, but I suppose it was a relief to finally have it out and to actually see it, because it's actually, I'm obviously biased, but it's a really attractive book. It's got a beautiful cover,
Indeed, it is,
by an artist called Richard Wells, with lots of different sort of ghostly sort of horror motifs in there, but this lovely sort of woodcut style. So actually seeing the book and holding it, that was a real thrill, because I'm a bit of a book lover, so I was really proud of just how it had turned out, just physically. Don't judge a book by its cover and all of that, but I was in a sense I was quite happy to, because if people looking at it would have thought, that's a nice looking book. So
it really is. It's a very handsome book indeed. So that's a great achievement itself. And for the for events, how were they the readings and the sort of Q&As with audience?
Well, we had a book launch, which I sort of arranged with. There's a really nice independent bookshop in Norwich called the Book Hive, and we had it there, and we had a really good turnout. I'm not sure how many people there. It was all a bit of a whir in my head.
Yeah.
But probably, 50 odd people or something. So it sort of packed the space out, and it was really nice. And I got to, chat to people I'd not seen for a while, and then new people who'd sort of come along and who'd heard about it. So we had but it was a kind of nice. It was a nice kind of personal event, but it was in kind of quite a familiar setting to me. But it was still a really, I really enjoyed that particular evening. Then after that, I did a few kind of talks at things, which were good. I did a few podcasts and stuff. I had to go down to London to do a podcast for Monocle magazine, and I did an interview that was for the ITN website. So excellent. I did a few things that were slightly nerve-wracking, kind of a slight step up from, I don't know, local radio or something that I'd perhaps done before. So I had a few things like that, and then I had a few events where I actually went and talked about the book. So they were good too. I was obviously due to be doing a lot more events this spring and summer, which unfortunately due to the virus have been cancelled.
Yes.
There we go. That's
yeah. And any interesting or insightful questions during these events, which you particularly enjoyed or sort of got you thinking?
I don't remember anything kind of that. I remember having interesting questions, but I don't remember anything kind of that sticks out that was either, oh God, how do I answer that, or
right,
or yes, I'd never thought of that. Ah, yes, you've sort of enlightened me about something in the book I'd not realised. So
right.
That doesn't sort of jump out in my memory. No, can't think of anything.
So no particular interrogations or anybody with a tidbit of historical information about one of your chapters?
No, I've not had anyone sort of publicly in one of those events sort of stand up and say, actually, you were wrong there, that was my error. I had people kind of put... It's been really nice when people have... Because it's a book that travels around... I travel around the country quite a lot and it's a different site. So certainly had people who have, either sort of asked a question or come up afterwards and chatted to me because they were familiar, they were from a particular area that I was talking about, or had some little insights into one of the writers or one of the films I was talking about, something like that. So that's certainly been an interesting thing from it. Yeah.
Very good. So it really is a piece of the topic area is sort of psychogeography, isn't it? I mean, was that a thing that came up and people would like to riff on that, or?
I don't think so. Any events. I think that's one of those terms that people kind of into psychogeography would probably kind of use it, and it's a little bit esoteric otherwise. It's one of those. I know I did get questioned on an interview I did about sort of, well, can you define this or something? And it's I'm not going to even attempt it again now. I find it kind of quite a difficult term to sort of explain to people, really. But it's quite a voguish term, I think, at the minute. But
I mean, I find it a really interesting concept. I mean, for me, it seems to be like a sort of place, especially somewhere you grew up or you had a great connection with. It's almost like a part of your mind, and you sort of carry it around with you. And anybody who's been there or has any experience of it, then it seems a very personal sort of thing, that it's your place, and these places are very meaningful for you.
Yeah, and I suppose that is a lot of this book. It's about my reaction to these places, and most of the places in it, well, the places I chose to go and investigate, they did have a kind of prior personal resonance with me in some form or other. So yeah, I can see that my book does kind of fit under that umbrella, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, the umbrellas and genres and classification is big in the book world, isn't it? You have to know where, which shelf you're going to put it on in the bookstore.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing with my book, because it crosses over lots of different. So actually, when you do go and see it in books, because I went to sign some copies of a book in a shop in London, and I sort of turned up. They knew I was coming, but they didn't know, they'd forgotten, I think. But they couldn't then remember where it was, because it could be in biography, it could be in history, it could be in kind of cultural criticism. It's been in nature writing. It's there's lots of literature, kind of. There's lots of different places it could kind of fit under.
True. Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating book, and I suppose the very nice thing about it is someone asked you to write it. As you were saying, very special that you were asked to write this book, which turned out to be this very handsome thing.
Yes, I suppose, because briefly how it kind of came about is I was messing around, not writing another book, thinking of ideas for a second novel, and I had an idea that involved an idea for a novel that involved as a bit part character the Victorian Edwardian ghost story writer M.R. James as a Cambridge professor, and involving him in some form in his sort of Cambridge days, just as a sort of little bit character. It's been done in another book. I hadn't realised at the time. Anyway, I visited with a friend of mine initially the place, the little village just outside Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk, where M.R. James grew up.
Yeah.
And I went home, and it's a very atmospheric place. There's a strange lake and the church where James's father was the vicar. And I went home and wrote a sort of a blog sort of piece about it with lots of atmospheric photos. And I guess like a month or two after that, a few weeks after it, this editor at HarperCollins emailed me to ask whether I'd ever, he found this really interesting, and had I ever thought about writing a non-fiction book on this subject. So I kind of arranged a meeting with him and went down and saw him, and we got on really well because we both had a shared love of crappy old 1970s horror films and things. It's kind of, this ghostly, eerie, weird literature as well.
Yeah.
So I met with him and then kind of went away thinking, all right, well, he would be, he said he'd be quite interested in me sending a proposal about this. So I then sort of went away to think about, well, because I hadn't thought of writing such a book until that thought had been put into my head.
Yeah.
I then sort of had to go away and think, well, if I were to, how would I do it? And then I kind of thought, well, I'm not an expert on these particular writers. I mean, I'm very keen. I've been interested for many years in them, so I'm a big fan of their work, and it's a genuine love and interest in that kind of whole world. But I kind of then thought about the sort of family connection and how that tied in, and my sort of own story, and then thought, well, that's actually a way that I'd feel more comfortable. I'd be probably more interested and more comfortable writing a book that also brought those elements in, because I feel kind of I have more confidence in telling my own story than being some sort of overarching literary critic of these people. So when I kind of thought, well, maybe actually there's a way I could tackle this and look into my own kind of childhood, and actually lots of the places that featured in some of these films and stories were also places that featured in some way in my childhood as well. So that then gave me the genesis for the idea that I then pitched back to them that, fortunately they really liked and went for. So
excellent. I mean, talk about the power of a blog post.
Yeah, well, there we go.
That's amazing.
It does show that kind of, random things can happen that way.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't very often, but I guess I'd slogged away at writing for quite a lot of years and sort of had quite like everyone else, had lots of knockbacks. So I was happy to take the slice of good luck and kind of
absolutely. I mean, you made that piece of luck.
Yeah.
And what does this mean now for the next book? Do you know if it will be fiction or non-fiction?
I think my current publisher, I'd hope, would be interested in my current editor would be interested in another non-fiction book.
Yeah.
So I need to go away and I have been thinking about that, but obviously a lot of the ideas I was thinking about, a bit like this book, involve quite a lot of sort of travelling and moving around the place. Actually, maybe a little bit more international travel than was in this book, and obviously at the moment that's problematic. So that's put the brakes on me kind of really developing my idea too much at the minute. But I will get round to it, I think, when I can see a bit more certainty as to the practicalities of. I suppose at the minute I don't want to invest lots of time planning out a hypothetical book that then I can't actually write for
No, it just might not be feasible. Yeah, no, you're right.
So we'll see what happens with that. But I also do I do harbour thoughts about writing another novel, because obviously if I am kind of stuck here at home for the next few months and I can't get on with the other book because it involves me wanting to go and do research in other locations, then I'm sort of quite keen to maybe have a go at writing another novel as well. So that's a possibility.
And your experiences from your two books, I mean, what have they taught you about productivity? Actually getting from idea to good, fleshed out idea to someone interested in the idea to draft to publication. I mean, do you think the processes for yourself would be the same, or just more efficient, or have you got sort of insights having gone through the process twice?
I mean, I suppose I do have some insights, and I guess I have the more current insights with Ghostland, because it's it's happened more recently. So I suppose I have a bit more. At this point, I feel slightly more confident on writing another non-fiction book as that process, because obviously it's been a while since. And even though the Listeners came out in 2014, I started writing it in about 2006. So the book that was probably the first draft was probably finished in 2007, and then there was lots of editing and tweaking and trying to get a publisher. So it's been longer since I've written that. So I suppose now I kind of think that I suspect that every book you write is a bit of a learning process again. And even though the one thing I guess if you've written a book or two books is that, well, when I've written one book, I knew I could do it, and when I've written two, I know I've been able to do it again. So that's probably as much as it tells me. In that everything else, I kind of feel that even almost every, this Ghostland had quite different chapters. It's kind of quite episodic. So even within that, I think each chapter was there was an element of you were starting a project again. So
I see.
So even though I've written two books, I certainly don't feel like I'm the fountain of knowledge or anything. It's still difficult, and it's still a slog to do it, and still a slog to make. I mean, I think I realise by now that one of the biggest battles I have is with myself, is to actually make myself sit down and be productive, and to get around to doing it. And I have kind of fits and starts with that, but it's certainly that's not I'm not one of these people who's wakes up at 6 and is there writing for 4 hours and has written 2,000 words by lunchtime, and then it's always a battle with me, definitely.
I think that's the case with most, maybe all writers. It's like starting again, but you've got great confidence that you can do it because you've done it once, twice, 3 times, whatever it is. But it's not a walk in the park, that's for certain. You have to psych yourself up and get in the right routine and frame.
You've got to be interested in it, haven't you? I think that's probably the hardest thing. I think. I mean, I was really interested. I was so into the idea of writing Ghostland, so that motivating myself in that regard wasn't too difficult. But thinking about the next book, it's finding an idea that you think that you're going to be in, it's going to hold your own interest for the year it's going to take to write or whatever. That's I think the thing that's the most terrifying, because I don't want to spend kind of 6 months starting something and then think, oh, I'm bored of this, or I've exhausted it. So I'm kind of very particular that I really want the idea to be well fleshed out before I think that maybe prevents me from getting on with stuff, because actually you can start something and then other elements of it come as part of the process, but I like to put as many mental blocks in my way as possible just to sort of procrastinate. So I mean,
it's relatively easy to have lots of ideas, but you've got to have the idea that keeps with you, that grows legs and survives all your thoughts about it, that you think, you might actually have something there that is worth working on. And that will survive, like you say, past the first week, month, or whatever. That's the thing. So maybe all this stuff, procrastination, maybe, but maybe it's sort of silent mental writing.
I think some of it is that. It is thinking about things, and it's kind of processing those ideas, and there's certainly some of that. And I think probably what writing these two books has also taught me is not to worry too much about time passing, or to think that there's if it takes another 6 months to before you're kind of comfortable to get on with it, then I kind of figure that's okay, really. It's nobody's kind of demanding me to write something in sort of in 6 months' time or something. I'm not in a position where anybody wants to read my books enough that they're asking me to churn them out or anything. So if it takes me a bit longer, then fine. Because I guess if I don't enjoy doing it, then really what's the point? Because
quite right. And there's no point rushing to a defeat. No need for that at all. So time is the thing, and you just have to wait for it to come about, which I'm sure it will. Fantastic, very, very interesting indeed. That insight into fiction and non-fiction and the whole process. Fascinating stuff. Thank you very much, Ed, indeed. I will be talking with Ed Parnell again in the next episode, where we will learn how his experience teaching how to write narrative non-fiction to students informs his own writing, and we also learn about 3 books that proved influential to him.